Thanks for joining us for another Kickstarter conniption. Today we're looking at Mass Transit from Calliope Games.
And as always, we want to make sure you're aware that our Kickstarter conniption videos are sponsored in part by our Kickstarter backers and by the creators of this game. Joining us at Tantrum House Studio 3. I'm Will Meadows.
And I'm Sara Meadows, and today we're doing an overview of Mass Transit from Calliope Games. It's from designers Chris Leader and Kevin Rogers.
This is a 1 to 6 player cooperative card game that's coming to Kickstarter soon. We were able to get our hands on this prototype copy, so let's take a look at how it's played.
To set up the game, construct the board and place a commuter meeple on each space.
Shuffle the deck and deal 4 cards to each player, and then you're ready to begin.
On your turn, you must play at least 2 cards from your hand.
Cards can be played in 2 ways. They may be added to one of the transit lines, or they may be used to move a commuter.
Commuters must walk to a station before getting on one of the other modes of transportation.
Then they can ride to the next station, maybe one that goes all the way to their home in the suburbs.
Some cards are urgent and must be played on that turn, and others may only be used for transit lines and not for transportation.
If on your turn you're not able to play 2 cards, the game is over and your team loses.
But if all 6 commuters make it home, everyone wins.
Mass Transit is a cooperative strategic card game where you'll be trying to think ahead as you are trying to plan out when to play the cards in your hand. You've got to be able to play 2 on your turn, which seems very easy for the majority of the game. You get down to those last couple turns though, and it gets really tight because if you didn't get cards out of your hand earlier, you may be stuck with something that's not playable and costs you the game.
Yes, you may end up getting one of those suburb cards that will end one of the lines, but they do have restrictions on them. You have to have so many cards in front of them of transit lines before you can play them. So you'll need to plan strategically. There's 2 of each type of those suburb cards that ends with a specific transit line in the deck.
On your turn, you will not be allowed to communicate everything to your teammates. It's a cooperative game, but there are restrictions on what you can say, and so you may have a transit line and you may be ready to play it down, and the guy before you adds 2 more unnecessary lines just to get it out of his hand. You kind of have to just work through some of those issues as you're playing the game, but ideally you'll be able to finish a line and then have a guy hit the next icon and get all the way to the end in as few, if you work together as a team, in as few turns as possible.
There are also some other things that happen on some of those cards. Some of them, there are traffic stops. So you may have be on one of the roads with a car. If you're, that's the only time that your commuter could stop and get out of the car and maybe walk to the next space. Otherwise, you'll have to stop there and have the commuter wait and play a different or another card of that same transit line on another turn, or maybe you have a second one in your hand that you can play to continue moving on that line. But you really have to balance using your walk cards, especially at the beginning, or there are places on some of the cards that a transit line just ends completely and you'll have to walk to another station. So planning that out will be really critical if you're going to win the game.
The iconography and art in the game is very straightforward and simple. Now obviously we are looking at a prototype version, so I'm not sure if this represents the final box size or what all will be included in the final campaign, but if you're interested in Mass Transit, you can definitely check it out on Kickstarter here real soon, and then yeah, see what all is going on, check out some of the other videos, look at all the components, and see what's included in the package.
Thank you so much for checking out our videos and subscribing to Tantrum House. To set up the game, construct the board and place the commuter meeples on each space.